What's up, guys? Paramotor here. I apologize if the video that you're gonna see looks a little bit different than what it normally looks like. I'm trying 4K. I've had this GoPro for damn near a year now, and I typically shoot in 1080 60 frames a second. Today we're gonna try it at 4K, and I took a suggestion from Chase on Two Wheels. Not personally, just I watched one of his videos, and he suggested doing 24 frames a second in 4K. Gives you a good, like, realistic kind of look on what it feels like to ride a motorcycle. So I'm gonna give it a try today, considering I'm all about realism. Hello guys, Paramoto here. Today I want to talk about every bike I've ever owned and what happened to that bike. So guys, this is a topic that I really enjoy. I really like talking about motorcycles. I really like talking about past motorcycles as well. If you guys know, I started on a 2013 Ninja 300. It was all black. It was all awesome. I love that bike, and it's really started my passion for Kawasaki, for Ninjas, as well as motorcycles in general. Back in 2013, I was working what was considered part-time as a firefighter paramedic in Ohio, and I was making about $8 an hour, 100 hours a week, and I really wanted a motorcycle. I've been watching guys like Rebel Yell 91 for years, and I wanted a motorcycle. It was gonna happen, and I finally had a job that would give me enough hours where I could make enough money to buy a motorcycle and make this dream that we all have just be totally obtainable. So I busted my ass for about 6 months, working 100 hours a week to be able to afford a brand new Ninja 300 in 2013. And in 2013, they were about $4 grand and change. I mean, not much for a brand new motorcycle, right? I mean, if you had any experience, I'd probably suggest you get a 650 because you could spend just a scotch more and you could actually get a bigger, better bike. Anyway, I got a brand new 2013 straight cash Ninja 300. Dude, it was such a good day. So I ended up taking my MSF course, and then the next day, I was at the dealership buying a Ninja 300. That's how much I wanted a motorcycle. So I already had the cash saved up. I already bought the gear. I'm actually wearing some of the gear that I purchased before I bought that first motorcycle. Right now, like, this jacket is my first motorcycle jacket ever. This jacket's literally 5 years old. But I went to the dealership. I didn't know that when you buy a motorcycle, they're in crates typically, and they have to be put together and assembled and everything. So I ended up dragging along a friend of mine who worked the fire department with me to come pick up the bike because he had a motorcycle endorsement. So I was like, oh, you can drive it back, and I'll buy you lunch next time we work together or whatever. And the bike was still in the crate when I purchased it. It was a fun side fact, when I went to purchase it, there was no way that a police officer, if they pulled me over, would not believe that I was not a drug dealer. At the time, I was changing cell service providers, so I had a cheap burner cell phone on me, I had an iPhone 5, and then I had $4 grand plus in cash and a Glock 19 on my hip. There was no way, there was absolutely no way there was going to be anybody believing that I was not a drug dealer. So we get to the dealership, they tell me that it's still in the crate, it's got to be assembled. I'm like, fuck. So I paid the money down. That day I owned a Ninja 300. That Ninja 300 was mine that day. It just needed to be put together. So they called me back the next day, and my boy had something else to do. He was, he's a family guy and everything. He had family stuff to do, and he couldn't come with me to pick up my motorcycle. But me, being the stupid fucking 20-something that I was like, fuck it, I'll drive it home then. I didn't have a motorcycle license. I didn't have the MSF course card that basically said, present this to a DMV and you get a motorcycle endorsement. And the bike had no insurance on it because I didn't have an endorsement. I didn't know if they would insure my bike or not without me being licensed to drive it. So I went up and I picked it up anyway. I dropped off my car there, picked up my bike, and I rode it home. And it was the most terrifying ride of my entire life. I rode it home, and I was on a 45-mile-an-hour road. I don't think I went over 40. The speed limit was 45. I might have hit 40 once or twice. It was terrifying riding on the road for the first time on a higher speed limit road like this one right here. Dude, it was absolutely terrifying. But I did it, and I got it to the DMV where I got my endorsement, and I think I set up insurance in the parking lot. So I was fully legal after riding it for like 15, 20 miles on a country road, 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, you know. And that bike was golden for me. That bike was absolutely golden the entire time I had it. That bike, I bought it in May of 2013, and I ended up selling it in March. And I ended up selling it in March after putting about 11,000 miles on it. Took a trip from Cleveland to Washington, D.C., and I took a trip from Cleveland to New York City. I had like 2, maybe 3 months experience riding a motorcycle, and I was in the middle of Times Square on my little Ninja 300 butting around, dude. It was awesome. Dude, I wish I would have had a GoPro so bad at the time, but at the time I wasn't recording videos because I basically spent all my money on the damn, on the motorcycle. You know, I didn't have anything left at all, but that bike served me really well. Look at this, just absolute fucking mess. You still bust like it's the 1960s here. So if you live up here, you might get bused 20 miles away to a school, and you pass like 3 or 4 schools on the way, you know, and all these parents don't trust the busing, so they go pick them up. So you have just the world's worst traffic jams outside of your school every fucking day. It's the dumbest shit ever. So anyway, after riding that bike for the better part of a year, about 10 months, I found myself literally full throttling it everywhere. It was really time to step up to something bigger. And all of my favorite motovloggers were all on 600s at the time. So I'm like, fuck it, I'll get a 600 too. I really wanted an R6 because my favorite motovlogger, who is still chasing on 2 wheels, was chasing on 2 wheels at the time, and he basically built his channel off of riding R6s. So I'm like, I'm gonna get an R6 if I can. I got all this experience, I'm ready to get a 600, or at least I feel I'm ready to get a 600. Currently in the market for a bike, right? So I need to go get some chain wax. I'm like, fuck it, the Honda dealership's right there. You know, I like CBRs. Let's go see what the Honda dealership has. And I'm just gonna go in and talk to people and just get chain lube. Well, started talking to a guy about numbers. You know, I have a trade-in on this, on my Ninja 300. A CBR 600 doesn't cost that much. You know, I'm out the door like 11 grand, and it's like I can't pass it up. So I walk in trying to get some chain wax, and I walked out the owner of a CBR 600 RR. It happened so fast. I go and I get my CBR 600 RR. I traded my Ninja 300. It's the end of an era. It's sad and everything. I'm bummed, but I have an awesome new bike. I had a 2014 CBR 600 RR, all black, all beautiful. It was lovely. I owned that bike for a total of 8 days when some 19-year-old kid decided to turn out in front of me and go left out of a right turn only and made me clobber right into the front fender of his piece of shit car, and he totaled that bike in the street. It literally cracked the engine block. Like, it was just pissing oil everywhere. It fucked that bike all up. I owned it for 8 days. It didn't even make it to its first service, and the thing was just destination fucked. I was all broken up. I fucking broke my hand. I had a gigantic scar on my leg. I still have a gigantic scar. It was a gigantic gash at the time from slamming into his car at 40 miles an hour. 10 out of 10, would not recommend it. But after a couple months, I get my shit sorted back out. I think it was about a month, because I settled the property damage side, got a lawyer for a personal injury side, because I just couldn't deal with the insurance companies anymore. If you've ever dealt with the insurance companies that don't want to pay when they're clearly at fault, it will drive you insane. And the reason why they do that is so that you'll settle for less money. They're terrible people. I don't know if you work at an insurance agency or whatever, but I'm sorry, but your agency is like the evil empire. After about a month, they pay out my property damage side. They fucked me out of a couple $1,000s. This lady basically said that, you know, my bike depreciated as soon as it went off the dealer's lot, so they're not liable for the full damage. So I ended up almost being upside down. And if I didn't have the trade-in on my Ninja 300, I would have been upside down on my bike. So instead of being ahead, I ended up about $1,000 behind. So basically what this kid ended up doing was he basically stole my Ninja 300 from me, is what ended up happening, because they didn't cover all my damages, and you know, I just had to eat the money. I could have got a lawyer, but the lawyer fees would have took any money that, you know, they would have gotten me extra. So it wasn't worth it. It was worth it just to take the wash and just get a payout and be able to sign for another bike. I ended up finding a 2013 CBR 600RR. It was all red. It was beautiful. I really wanted a red one, but I don't know why I just settled for the black one. I think it's just because somebody said I could have it, and I grabbed it as soon as I could. So it was 2013, leftover stock, so it was $1,000 cheaper. So I got a good deal on it and everything, and I had that bike for 3 years, I think, right? Yeah, I had that bike for 3 years. It came down to North Carolina with me. It was a great bike. I took it from Cleveland to Charlotte. It did fantastic. Honestly, the only thing that ever got rough on that bike was the seat that wore out. But the bike had like 14 or so thousand miles and the seat wore out. And that was the only thing that went bad on that bike. I mean, that thing, Hondas make a fantastic motor. Their bike's kind of boring. I'll be honest with you. I was bored to death with that bike. But honestly, like, you can't really knock it. They make an absolutely bulletproof motorcycle. Like, if you're looking for a first bike or a bike to do all trades with you, honestly, go get yourself a Honda. And you know what? Honda Financial is so awesome. They don't even ask for money half the time. Like, I would always pay a little bit more and everything. And, like, there was, like, almost a year where they didn't even ask me for a payment because I was so far ahead. They're like, whatever, pay me when you can. You know, so Honda Financial, you guys are a fucking baller. I love you guys. But that bike came down here. I had it for a long time. Put a lot of miles on that bike. That bike was good to me. I ended up, it was my daily driver for a while. I drove it everywhere. I drove to work every day. And at the time, I was on 24-hour shifts. And I was really tired one shift. I didn't quite notice that the traffic in front of me came to a total dead stop. And I ended up having to grab a whole lot of front brake. And I had no ABS or anything like that. I never locked up the front brake, because the MSF course is amazing and they do an awesome job. But one thing that I did do is I ended the bike really hard. So the bike ended up going like this, and about 11 o'clock I ended up going, fuck that. You know, basically jumped off the bike at about 40-45 miles an hour. Took 2 gigantic Beavis and Butthead steps and slammed into the fucking back of a bus. It was not a good day for me. I think I broke my foot. And I cracked up all the plastics on that bike really bad, you know, but the bike was fine. The only thing that I think fucked up on it was the bike tripped a mercury switch, which is not for homemade explosive devices that you hear about on movies. So, like, the mercury switch basically detects when the bike goes upside down or too much on the side. It'll cut the bike off, so it doesn't, like, run it dry in oil or anything like that. I don't know the full purpose of it, but that's what the mercury switch did, and I tripped it or broke it or something of the sort. You could start it up fine once. It would hard start all over the place after the initial start. It was really annoying, but that was one of the big reasons why I ended up getting rid of it, because it wasn't reliable for me anymore. And I probably could have just replaced the switch and it probably would have been fine, but, you know, like, I didn't have the money to take the bike to a shop. I needed a bike to be bulletproof. You know, it was until I slammed it in the back of a bus. But anyway, that takes us to this bike. So, how about this brand new 2018 Ducati Panigale 959, December 6, 2017. Got a deal on it. It wasn't a steal, but it was a deal. And I ended up getting the extra service package on it, the 2 extended years, for very cheap. This bike has about 5,000 miles on it. I've road tripped it to Virginia Beach so far. It's going to get some more road trips on it this year. It's the focus of my entire channel, and it's going to be the focus of build series and road trips and everything coming up. So that is the history of every motorcycle that I've ever owned. There hopefully will be more motorcycles coming. Hopefully I'll be able to monetize sometime in the next calendar year. And what I plan to do when I monetize is take all of that money and recycle it into my moto fund. And my moto fund will literally just be moto projects and all sorts of stuff. And it's only going to be fun stuff for the channel. And hopefully I want to do a like a salvage bike build. Like, I want to find an R6, because I've always wanted an R6, or I want to find a ZX6R Ninja 636. I'd like to find one of those for cheap on Craigslist that's been, like, basically cosmetically crashed and maybe totaled. Like, all the plastic would be fucked up, and there'd be a lot of, like, cosmetic work that needs to be done, but hopefully just run solid mechanically. And I want to take it from a salvage title and flip it and make it my, you know, daily driver, because I'd love to daily drive a bike again. I work in a less than pleasant community that I don't trust this bike to be hanging around at. I mean, I don't want it to get stolen, and I don't want it to get fucking vandalized. But if I had a salvage 600, like, who gives a shit? You know, a 600 is a 600. A 600 is a dime a dozen. So that's the plan for the future. Other than that, maybe a dual sport. I would love to dual sport because I would love to start going off-road, and I'd love to start being a hooligan, and I'd love to just really just be a dick more, because I enjoy being an asshole while I'm out riding. Again, that's the story of all my bikes I've ever owned. Comment down below what bikes you've had, what your favorite bike was. Tell me if you had an awesome story about slamming a CBR into something and it being fine, because I've done it with 2 CBRs and they've both been basically fine, besides for the one that ended up cracking the engine block. But the fun thing about that is when I cracked the engine block in my first CBR 600RR, the damn thing was still running. That's crazy that you can crack an engine block on a Japanese bike and it basically just keeps running. But that's the amazing thing about Japanese. I kind of bag on them about not having any soul, but at the same point, man, they run. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys on the next video. Deuces.